More like stale bread than.
We're live now. Yeah, we're just if you're just joining us, everyone, we're just looking at some alternate cover albums for this Westlife record. Yeah, one of these. I've never seen four people dressed in totally different articles of clothing, but also dressed in the same articles of clothing.
James Arthur got cloned 4 times, and this is his offspring.
I mean, on the official cover, one of them looks like Seth MacFarlane. Like the guy on the left just looks like a more handsome Seth MacFarlane.
The guy in the back looks exactly like. What is he doing with his
Actually,
hands?
2 of these people look like Seth MacFarlane. One of them looks like Logan Paul in 20 years.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, he's got. Oh my god.
The clouds in the second one look like Taylor Swift's lover.
It's pretty good. I like the color scheme. I like this like weird like saturated like and like all the alternate covers are this different color grades of the same album. It's kind of impressive. Except the green one. The green one looks the best. I don't know why they didn't choose that one.
Yeah, why don't they like changed it to pink or something?
Yeah, they changed it to pink. There's also yellow. But hi everyone, welcome to Albumology. We are here with episode 4, and we will announce this as I guess like the return of the king because Veda is back.
Yeah, the fan favorite. I read the comments. I hear you all raging in there. Veda's so cool, all the things, but.
You did have your name chanted at a Baby No Money concert. So.
That was true. That was the best night of my life.
You are the most famous person here.
That's actually true. It's all downhill from here after that Baby No Money concert.
All right, speaking of all downhill from here, we're going to see who else is downhill. Of course, I'm here. I'm here. I'm downhill. But also downhill, next down the hill is, we got ourselves Bridger.
Feeling pretty far down the hill.
Okay.
Not far enough, obviously.
Speaking of Westlife facing south, well, not facing south, he's facing north right now, but sitting
east.
to the south is Otis.
Hello.
How's it going, Otis?
I'm doing all right.
How
Excited to review some of these albums.
Yeah, same. Absolutely.
Only one.
Yeah, only one. Okay, next up, let's talk about our
Downbeat.
Our downbeat, that's correct. So today, we had a couple new releases. First one we're going to talk about today is actually from a band called Atomic Blue, and the record is However Many Days. It's an 8-song EP. I could not find, or it's an album. I could not find much information on this band, so if anybody else can clue me in, that'd be great. Otherwise, we'll just kind of talk about this. I'd say it's a dream pop, lo-fi record.
Bedroom pop.
Bedroom pop, yeah.
So I was able to find this band is a few people from Denmark, and that is about all that I could find on this band.
Is that just the trend this week? Is that everybody looks exactly the same in each group that we did?
I think so.
Yeah. That's our trend this week is Twin Day. So we're having like a Spirit Week, actually.
Spirit Week of albums. All right. Yeah, so Westlife. That's our next one. I'm sorry. I was on the wrong Genius page because there is no Genius page for Atomic Blue. But how do we all feel about Atomic Blue's However Many Days?
So this album, it was the first one I listened to, and I came into this not knowing what to expect whatsoever. And I was surprised. When a track like Disco Baby and Delay came on, I was just interested. I was interested in this bedroom pop, this really lo-fi. They're a bit shorter than most of the songs, so I was interested in how that would play out. I mean, that's like on Disco Baby, the soft guitar intro, and then it jumps into this like kind of fun, interesting mess of vocals. And I guess that's how I can describe a lot of the vocals, is that it was kind of a mess. Couldn't understand a word except for like Disco Baby, which was a little annoying. Which, I mean, look, if I don't understand what you're saying, cool, I'm okay with that. But this was like, couldn't find the lyrics anywhere, and it was just weird.
Yeah, I really didn't like this album to any degree. I know there's like this fascination with lo-fi. I get it. There's a I don't know, maybe it's like a reaction to there's people wanting warmer production out of stuff. I don't know, or like nostalgia. I appreciated the instrumental work on quite a few of these tracks. I agree, Veda, that opening on Disco Baby is actually pretty okay. It's pretty enticing. My biggest problem is on any of these tracks, if you skip around a single track, it's more or less impossible to tell where A, on the record you are, and B, on a track you are. They don't really evolve or build to anything, which is fine, because like if you're talking about like lo-fi chill hop beats, like it's cool. You can do your own thing. My biggest problem though is like, I think I would have liked this better if it just didn't have vocals, honestly. The vocals are so submerged in the mix anyways. I feel like they listened to a Strokes record in like 2002, and then 19 years later they decided to do the same vocal delivery style, but failed to have clever writing or anything to say. And so yeah, you get these cool soundscapes, I guess, but they're not serviced by lyrics or by vocal delivery. Everything just sounds underwater and muffled for the most part. And so I listened to it and I'm like, oh cool. I wish I could vibe to this, but the fact that there are words just distracts me from the instrumental work that I do appreciate.
Yeah, I agree with that. It felt like somebody just like dropped a bucket of reverb and delay on the vocals and then just left it there.
Yeah.
It's echo is just so annoying.
It's so, the vocals just sound so far away. It you can't tell what they're saying. And so that makes it so that it's just basically like another instrument in the pile, but not as good. Which was disappointing because I did really like a lot of the instrumental parts on this. I think like I really liked the bass on most of these songs, and like I don't know, it was kind of fun. Whenever there was a drum fill, they would do like the first two in the right ear and then the second two hits in the left ear, and I don't know, there's like a lot of kind of fun instrumentation on this, and I really enjoyed that, and I feel like it could be a really good study album, but it the vocals don't really help with much at all.
Yeah, I thought that, like, just as far as, like, musically and, like, instrumentally, this album was really, like, intriguing and fun to listen to. I want to go back and learn the bass line to some of these songs, like, and just, like, the way that they're produced, I think, is really suiting for, like, the kind of bedroom pop lo-fi feel, but the vocals didn't really add anything, and, like, I was just lost with them. I just found myself not paying attention to them at all. So, I mean, it wasn't that I didn't appreciate them or that it made it worse. They just really didn't add anything. And so, like, I wasn't paying attention to them at all, which, if you're going to have vocals, you probably want people to pay attention to them.
Yeah, I tried to look at this in the most positive light necessary. And when I heard the vocals, I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. What if like this is like it's just like its own instrument? But no, I realize now it's not. It's terrible. It's not good. I enjoyed the last three songs because those were like, they were longer, they were vibe sessions. Like you could really zone out to them, minus like a few annoying parts in the vocals. But the early tracks with like just the bedroom pop like could get a little annoying. It was another big issue I had is that it didn't work as an album to me. It felt like something like a teenager could do in his bedroom all on his own with like some free beat system. Mm-hmm. But like it was just done by, I don't know who this is or how many people did this, and I'm worried that if it's like as many people as it is, yikes. Anyways, it was. I think that I love albums, and I think that like every song could fit in an album if it's placed well or if the album's done well. But like this was just a moment where these all felt like a sea of the exact same song in a mix of all the other lo-fi beats that have ever existed. I didn't find it special. I didn't find it enjoyed. I didn't find it all too engaging, except for like some decent parts on the production. But other than that, I mean, the funk was okay and the bass was pretty good, but like it was just so torn apart.
Yeah, it's like it's like a band went into a studio, or an artist somebody did something, and they just like put on that 24/7 lo-fi hip-hop like chill beats to study and relax to on YouTube, and they just put that on, and then we're like seeing that had positive reception in the comments. And then they was just like, oh, sick, I'm gonna do that. But then they actually put vocals over it and kind of defeated the purpose of a lot of that music.
It's not something you can zone out to, because then you think like, oh man, I gotta pay attention to these lyrics.
Yeah.
But like, what do you pay attention to?
When it's a 24/7, like you said, Veda, when it's a 24/7 playlist, like it's like, okay, I don't expect that to be. There's a certain expectation out of an album, and yeah, like you expect an album to have a cohesion to it. I keep saying the word cohesion, but it's a big deal for me on an album. It's a deal breaker on 90% of records I listen to, and in this case, like it's like, oh, okay, cool. Each of these songs, like I said, they don't build to anything or progress, and like even in the sequence of how they appear on the album, I just don't. I have my hand on my face right now because it's just there was so little for me to chew on in this album that like I simultaneously zoned out and was just like, also, oh, this is like not inoffensive in a way that like some albums I've listened to on this podcast have been, like Crawler, but it's certainly this like I don't know who this is for, or why, or how, or what, or when.
I thought that there was like enough reverb on the vocals that I didn't like recognize that they were vocals. So it like I actually did do some like homework while I was listening to this, and I was like, yeah, that's decent. It works for me for study music, and so I think that part was good. And I thought that most of the songs were just kind of like I wrote down amorphic blobs.
Yeah.
Except for You're Right, which was like more structured, I'd say, and I think if I'm remembering right, it had like a bit more presence with the vocals, and it also had lyrics that showed up.
Yeah,
this is the one song on the album that had that.
I feel like you'll notice that we're not talking about a specific song because they all kind of blended together to just be iffy. And if I were to talk about a specific song, I don't know. I don't remember any of this, truthfully. I could probably listen to this like 10 more times and still have it kind of blend together. I wouldn't think like, oh man, that beat switch on Saturday was so awesome. Like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of demos where like you would like, you know, a band would go in and record like, oh, we're just going to jam for a little bit, and then like from that you refine it into a smaller song. A lot of these songs are like 5.5 minutes. You're like,
it can work as thrown into a 24-hour playlist.
Yes.
It doesn't work as a 30-minute album.
right.
It's not a thing to critically listen to.
You can't.
No.
It has. I don't think it has like really any replayability to like really care, or there's nothing to like really dive into on this because you can't hear what they're talking about. There's no cohesion.
Yeah.
Yucky. That's all I have to say.
I don't know. I like lo-fi type stuff, and I think this was not like, yeah, it definitely, I feel like it's not the type of music that really fits best in an album format, but I'm not sure. Like, there are some artists that have lo-fi albums that I really appreciate, and I think they have like much more cohesion to them, and like even though they're are not vocals, or it's kind of similar throughout the album, there's still kind of that like pleasant to listen to with a little bit more cohesion than a playlist might have. But I think this album like wasn't able to kind of fully send on that, and I think that was where it like fell short, coming from someone who likes this genre of music. Like this one artist, Ginseng from LA, makes wonderful like lo-fi albums, and they're like a vibe. It's like a, you know.
I think if you want like something good to listen to that's like this but better, like you can listen to something like Your Best Friend Jippy, where it's just these 50 song albums where it's just like 50 different beats that were randomly made, and those are much more enjoyable than this experience.
You can also just listen to like anything the Gorillaz have produced since 2002. Like
there's just so much.
There are artists that take this as inspiration and they turn it into something. Like one of my favorite albums of the year so far is still Glow On from Turnstile, and like they clearly listened to like lo-fi chill stuff for a bit and incorporate it into hardcore punk music. in a really interesting way, and it's like snippets here and there. It's not like an entire 5.5 minute composition. And I say composition in the loosest of terms. I really don't like this album. Unless anybody else has anything to say, I think we should review this, and I think we should review it by putting on the amount of reverb that is apt to the album itself. Does anybody else have anything else to say before we go into reverb mode?
I think we're all good.
Let's dive in.
All right, so we're going to engage reverb at a level of, let's get 7.
Oh,
So
I
here we
thought
go.
it was at like 8.
Probably
Is 8 bad? Yeah, I think 8. Okay, so we're going to go for 8 reverb starting now. All right, so you should now be hearing us in exceptional Reverb Hall 1. So I've talked about this before. One of the worst things about an album. So an album can be blatantly purposeless, and it can be like the James Arthur kind of bad, where it feels cheap and inauthentic. I don't think this sounds cheap and inauthentic, but the other thing an album can be is a loose collection of songs that have no meaning being put together. And I really like the term amorphous blob. If I could give an amorphous blob out of 10, I would. I'm going to say that instead of an amorphous blob out of 10, though, we will simply put this as, like, if amorphous blob took shape, it would honestly probably be another 2 out of 10 for me, where I'm like, I'm not going to hate the entire thing, but, like, it's just not, there's not, like Veda said, we're not talking about anything specific because there's nothing specific I can latch onto, and I've listened to this album twice.
I honestly, it was just, I don't see this as an album. I don't see this being enjoyed as an album. And when I'm looking at everything we listen to on this, I want to enjoy it as an album in its whole entirety. This was not that. And for the small moments that I did enjoy, like, they were pretty good. I thought that the last, like, I don't know, 15 or so minutes, no, because that was too long, because it's 30 minutes. Okay, last like 3 tracks were just, they were fine, because if I ignored the vocals and just listened to the beats, I thought they were pretty good. But there was just nothing special about this. It was stuck in a stew of thousands of other tracks that sound exactly like it. I'm honestly just going to give this a big fat 3 out of 10.
I don't know. This album was, it was not...
Album in heavy quotes.
Yes, album in heavy quotes. I was just about to say, it, but, like, I don't know if it's not the type of music that's best consumed in a traditional album format, I don't think. And so, like, yeah, I think it would be really fun to play. I feel like this is the type of thing where a bunch of people, like, went into a studio and they just kind of, like, wrote a bunch of songs on a rainy day and were like, you know what, this is fun. And I would love to be in the experience of writing this album, but as a listener, it's not as fun. So I can appreciate it for, like, you know, just, like, wanting to be there and kind of, like, you know, like, make an album like this, not for other people to listen to, but just to kind of, like, play music like this. So I am going to say, like, a 5 out of 10. I had 6 out of 10 on there, but then under that I have groupthink time. So we're going to incorporate groupthink time into this.
Okay. I really enjoyed parts of this album, but like many have said, it's not all that special. It was a lot of the same, but it was like good study music. It's easy to listen to. I wasn't offended by anything on the album. And I enjoyed the feeling that I got from it, even if I didn't enjoy the songs or the album portion as much. So I gave this a 5 out of 10 also.
Okay.
Are we back to reality?
We have left the reverb zone, which means we can safely put Atomic Blue in our rearview window as we continue westward towards Westlife with their brand new album. Hang on one second. I had Hiatus Coyote pulled up for a second. Okay, so our brand new album titled Wild Dreams. Now, Westlife is a 4-piece group out of Ireland. From the limited research I did, they seem to be they came at the tail end of the boy band craze in the late 90s, early 2000s. And if you look at a lot of their older albums, a lot of them just look like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC albums. Boy, howdy. And yeah, so I'd probably describe this as a modern boy band / just like down the line pop music. I think is the only way I can really describe this. Unless anybody has something better. But yeah, let's talk about Westlife, Wild Dreams.
You know, I can describe it as pop music, but I've got something better. It's a climax of a Disney movie, and that is all I could hear throughout this entire album. I listened to that first song, Starlight, and this was a funny little scenario I had. I sat there and I accidentally played the first 3 seconds of the song, and I heard Coldplay, and I was like, oh my god, we're gonna listen to some Coldplay music. I was so excited. Then I played the rest of the album, and man, oh man, was I disappointed. Sounds like the climax of a Disney movie, not special at all. Like, I gave most of these songs, they're just so mid. There was no heart in them, and they fell into that same issue that the James Arthur album had, where it all kind of ended up sounding the same. There was a lot of the same like things being talked about, a lot of the same like, even if a song didn't sound the same, it had the same energy as something else, and that was just so annoying. Alone Together had some of the heaviest auto-tune I have ever heard on a song, to the point where I was just not able to like listen to it because of how distracting that was. And sometimes I'm okay with auto-tune, but like to this extent where it doesn't sound human. Biggest complaint here, this does not need to be 4 dudes. This could very easily be one guy, and I like could barely disclose who was singing at any point throughout this album, and it was so annoying because then it just got randomly destroyed because I was like, I'd hear one guy talking, and it was so annoying. They're all talking about like the same storyline, but they're all 4 different people, and so I'm like, are these 4 dudes all conjoined twins or something, and they're just together? Like, I don't understand. I lost it like halfway through the album. I was just losing my mind. My notes are incoherent screams and scribbles of just, the final word I wrote was "this stunk," and like it sucked, and I hate all 4 of these guys. I hate Seth MacFarlane, 50-year-old Logan Paul, and the other dude. This sucked so hard. Bridger, your next point?
Yes, I have a lot to say about this also. So I listened to this album, and I actually didn't notice that there were multiple people singing until one of the last songs. And I was like, wait, was this the whole album? Were there like multiple people singing the whole time? Because they sound like pretty much exactly the same. Also, I think I got whiplash from how fast they changed themes from the songs. It was like they'd play 2 love songs in a row, and then they'd switch to 2 breakup songs in a row, and then 1 love song, and then 1 breakup song. Also, something I wanted to note, the youngest member in this band is 41 years old. So it kind of felt like they could move on to some more
so they were like 20?
Mature topics.
Like in their prime, I guess. Prime and heavy quotations as well.
Yeah, and it didn't feel... like the music wasn't all that interesting, which was disappointing. I could have written this, I think. Which, whatever. But also, they didn't release a non-deluxe version of this album. And so all of us listened to the deluxe version of the album. And they finished the album with 4 live songs. 2 of them are re-releases or like... they're re-releasing their older songs. Like, one of them was from 2002 and the other one was from 1999. And then they released a cover of Uptown Girl by Billy Joel live, and they also released an almost 7-minute version of Josh Groban's "You Raise Me Up," and that's how they finished the album, which was a very bold choice.
I felt like I got put down.
Yeah, so this song actually, this album actually came out on my 18th birthday, which was kind of a disappointing gift from them, honestly. I think I'm going to write them a letter and express my feelings.
They have tour dates set for next year, by the way.
Okay, are they coming here?
I actually don't know. I'll look it up.
Do you think
Otis, what do you think about the album?
So I was intrigued by this album. Like, it has some of the like pop elements that I can appreciate. You know, like it gave a lot of One Direction vibes, and I like One Direction. And so it was interesting because I don't understand, like, they came before One Direction, but then they're writing the same music that One Direction wrote. Like, literally, the song Magic has the same melodic line as Night Changes by One Direction, and, like, there is so much that is in common between this and, like, yeah, and also U2. I heard so many, like, weird influences from U2. And
They are Irish, so, I mean,
that makes sense.
Irish boy band.
That makes sense. But I just, like, I liked it in some capacity, but it was interesting because I felt like there were other places where I could have gotten that same, what I liked about it in a more condensed format.
This was the stinkiest album. It is in the runnings with that James Arthur album as, like,
I
the worst.
hear what you're all saying,
No. You can't do this!
but I thought this album was magical. I thought it did some incredible things. I love the positive, uplifting spirit that it has to it. Really, the core of it is about hope and uplifting. And I'm starting to cry right now because everybody's making fun of this album, and I thought it was my favorite of the week. And I just want to point this out, Bridger, they will not be playing Phoenix. They'll be starting in Dublin.
Okay.
Good.
For Irish listeners out there, Dublin. But eventually they will be playing the O2 in London. So they've got some big things. They're playing Liverpool. I don't know if you've heard of the Beatles, but they're from Liverpool. So that's kind of cool that they get to carry on that legacy. Of course, they're playing Glasgow, and Leeds, also a famous concert venue there. So very excited for that tour. I might try to make a journey to England specifically to see them.
Can I come?
No. I want to kind of go with Westlife fans only, sorry. But yeah, I thought this album was did some really incredible things.
You can't be doing this. There's no way.
So, I mean, like, the song Starlight, I agree, starts off kind of Coldplay. I think it's one of the weaker tracks, honestly. It kind of gets into its groove, starting with Alone Together. And Alone Together, just the entire principle of, I watched a couple interviews with the band, and they were talking about how the COVID-19 pandemic kind of led to this idea of isolation, and they tried to express that. And there's a lot of artists that are trying to explore that, and this idea of Alone Together is about that kind of quarantine, right? This idea of, because I'm alone, you're alone, it's whatever, we should be alone together. I think that chorus really speaks volumes to a generation, and really I think is going to be I think this will be one of the pop records that'll be remembered of this year. It's like this, Adele, and that, like, just even talking about stuff we've listened on this podcast. I mean, like, this is I'm surprised I haven't seen this on TikTok, because I think this album has the potential to really light the world ablaze. It took them a long time to record it, and just looking at, like, a lot of these albums, I know some of you said the songs all sound the same, but I mean, like, a song like Alive with this uplifting spirit about this living and being alive, I think that's something that hits hard with people, certainly resonated with me in my soul. Do you ever think of me? And, like, this idea of feeling forgotten and left behind, I think is, again, these are all this tones and feelings. And Bridger, I know you talked about the deluxe version of this, but I have to applaud them for refusing to release a lesser version of an album and saying you are getting the deluxe version. And I really think...
But do you really think that the last 4 songs that they added, added anything to the album?
I think they did, because World of Our Own, for example, live at Ulster Hall, really captures the live spirit of the band. And I think that as a group, Westlife, it certainly sounds like they're at their best when they're live. And hearing the crowd kind of chant for them and cheer for them and getting that positive, uplifting spirit and that vibe, I think it really just seals the deal with how exciting they can be. And like ending it with You Raise Me Up is such a great way to complete the thematic journey of feeling like you have been lifted up and embraced and really like, you know, especially a year and a half after the start of the pandemic, just getting this feeling of somebody else being there for you. I just want to highlight, I mean, like the song Magic says clearly in its lyrics, I just want to highlight that song real quick because that's one of my favorites. I was trying to pull up the lyrics, but Genius doesn't have them. But that's okay, because I do want to highlight a song that they do have, which is My Hero. And at first I was kind of worried. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a Foo Fighters cover from Color in the Shape. But no, this really, like, My Hero, I feel like was speaking to me. I felt like I was the hero. And following the Westlife journey for this album, you know, you've known me at my lowest stage, you've brought me through the burning rain. You knew who you were navigating. I feel love, even the darkest place. I feel light I can't explain, and it's something that's ever changing. You are my hero, and I want you to know that I feel like you are my hero. And I don't know why everybody at this table is laughing. I literally have tears in my eyes because I'm trying to talk about how much I appreciate this song and how much it resonates with me. So please calm down. My Hero is a song that it tears me up thinking about it. And thinking of how we've been here through the scars and the aches in their heart and the journeys in cars and that talk through the bad times, you know, that one. You don't know how you're saving my life tonight, and I feel like you're my hero. And this is an album that I think just resonated with me in a way that very few albums ever have. And I feel so connected to these four gentlemen. And certainly there are YouTube vibes to it. I certainly heard that influence, but I think it's so transformative. And
you know what? I'm convinced. He broke me.
Okay,
I love
hold
this
on.
album. It's so good.
I have an announcement to make.
Yeah.
I was listening to this and I was like thinking of James Arthur, and I looked up Westlife James Arthur, and they have played shows together, and that just like made me lose so much respect for
not give
anyone
this
in this
album
band.
a good score. You have to take back everything you've ever said about James Arthur.
On the contrary, it much like this album uplifts my spirits. I believe that James Arthur's appreciation, ability to recognize genius in another, like Westlife, uplifts James Arthur in a way that I think thematically makes this album stronger for me.
I'm not doing this podcast anymore.
Okay, so I just want to clarify why I'm laughing. I am laughing because just hearing Veda's like opinions on this and then your opinions on this, there's like such a drastic shift.
Yeah.
You saw like how passionate I was with how much I hated this album.
These are like oceans apart, and they had a big single called Coast to Coast back in the early 2000s.
This
so
can't be
sense.
okay. You know what?
I did listen to most of the, like, I went back and listened to the discography leading up to this.
That is so
I feel,
not
I feel like
true.
I've had a connection with this band.
You are such a liar. You make me angry. I don't even know what we're doing here anymore because you've ruined my day.
So I did not hate this album. As I said, there were some things that like I could have sought out elsewhere, but like it was something that I felt like, you know, some songs I felt like might be played at like a school dance, you know, and I could like vibe to them, you know. Putting his face into his palm.
If I went to a school dance and I had to hear something like Starlight or Alone Together get played, I would walk out of that
I mean, if we put on
room.
like Magic or My Hero, how would
I'm
you
not
feel?
coming to prom this year because of this. Like,
There
I
are-
know that you're just gonna mess with me, and I'm gonna be like, "And this one's
look,
for you, Veda," and like the whole.
I hear what
album's
you're
gonna
saying,
come on.
Veda, but if I were to convince you to go to a show,
No, wait. Oh,
currently you can get pit tickets for about £287.
I would
a
not.
piece.
Pay, oh, pounds. Okay.
Which is okay, yeah. So that makes it better. It's approximately. We're gonna we'll just round it off and say that's roughly like $400.
Why? No, I
For a
can't.
single ticket. You can also get other ones for like only £53 a piece, but it's not till next July, so you have time to think about it.
So this album for me, I was laughing because I was watching Veda's face, which was making some.
Yeah, for our audio listeners, Veda was very offended by my
Not that I offended.
my
It's that
appreciation
this album
of
just
Westlife's-
objectively stunk
Okay.
so
anyway,
hard.
and moving on. This album was on the same level as like Honest Men for me. It felt like it was fine. The songs were fine. It was much better than James Arthur, I think. Although the fact that they have worked with him does drop the score. But I think that like most of the songs were okay. There was actually like dynamic elements in the album. There was different energy levels to the songs, and there were just some different things, and the themes weren't as bad as James Arthur's. That being said, I didn't enjoy it all that much. It just felt like okay, yeah, that's like not too surprising.
Can we give
album.
scores? I just want to be done.
I thought that, yeah. I just want to point out here that the song Rewind and then Do You Ever Think
Beautiful.
of Me?
Amazing.
Rewind has the lyric, I bet you think about me, or no, it doesn't, but it has a lyric like that, and then I was like, oh my gosh, it's I Almost Do by Taylor Swift. And then the next song is called Do You Ever Think of Me? And I don't know how I feel about, like, I guess I thought it was, like, kind of cool that they had, like, a little bit of, like, you take a lyric from one song and make it to another.
It's a motif. It's a returning thing. A lot of great artists do that.
But my biggest problem with this was the four ending tracks. I was laughing all of the way through Uptown Girl.
Yeah, same.
It was like,
I think it's touching that they pay tribute to their heroes while they highlight myself as a hero. I want to quote. I want to quote here the lyrics "End of Time" because they really speak to me. So dry your eyes. I'll be there to hold you in the night, and please don't cry. I will love you till the end of time, until the end of time. And I feel like that really uplifted me when I was listening to this album at about 1:30 in the morning. And I really just teared up thinking about it, and it just made me feel things and feel a certain way. And like I think those ending four tracks, I'm just going to defend them. I think they really just capture that spirit and that fun, and like you get this beautiful like layered album leading into a little bonus live EP. It's really nice.
I'm angry. Feeling so many emotions.
like this Westlife album.
Yeah, let's who else needs to assign their final scores? I mean, right. It's really hard for me to score something that's this intensely emotional and personal.
It's pretty easy for me to score this 2 out of 10 solid.
Okay.
I gave this a 5 out of 10 also. It was like I was trying to compare it with the Atomic Blue album of like which one I enjoyed more, but they're so different that it's kind of hard to do that.
They suck for different reasons.
Anyway, I thought it was like fine, and I just didn't really feel like it had all been done before, and it didn't feel all that interesting to me.
Okay. I mean, like I said, it's really hard for me to assign a holistic score to something that touched me so personally. Again, listening to this about 1:30 in the morning multiple times. But I just want to say that, to quote the band themselves in the song Alive, which is perhaps one of the most beautiful and just really touching, soul-searching tracks, not everyone will understand you. I think they're talking about the album in this case. Not everyone will make you laugh, I do. Not everyone will know just how you're feeling, but everyone is not everything that you're needing. Because I know about the trees you climbed, and your mother does too. I know you're sad about leaving behind all your friends from school. But the world will come alive, yeah. It's dancing to your beat. And I personally feel like I'm dancing to the beat of Westlife with Wild Dreams. So I'm not going to assign a score, because it just transcends my ability to assign this is like asinine number to it, you know what I'm saying?
I'm going to amend my score. I'm giving this an amorphic blob out of 10.
What? I feel like this is like, I don't know.
That makes it like a 3 or something. Yeah.
No, not 5.
This is a great album, and I'm hoping
I'm
to get those O2 tickets. I've never been to. I want to go to London, and this would be a great excuse to go.
No, the song Alive. I was
Beautiful.
reading that. I was reading those lyrics also, and I was trying to figure out if this was like what perspective this was written from, because like to me, that song sounded like they could have been either like 16 or 40. Yeah. I had to look it up. They are all in their 40s. I couldn't figure out if that was like talking about like from a parent's perspective. Like
I think honestly,
I don't know.
it's the timelessness of art. It's the ability to transcend a generation or a specific time to relay feelings, and make them really transformative, regardless of your status in life. I mean, this is what all great music should do.
I hate you so much. God.
All right, are you ready to move on? Or
Otis.
do you have to give a score to
I'm gonna
give?
give this like, okay, without the last 4 tracks, not the deluxe edition.
It's cutting out a good chunk of the album.
It is cutting out a
It's a
good
third
chunk
of
of
it.
the album. I would say it's like a 6.5, maybe. But with the deluxe edition parts bring it down quite a bit.
That's like worse than hearing whatever poop Casady had to spew about this. Hearing you give it an unironic 6.5 out of 10.
I cannot tell if Cassidy's being ironic right now, and it's really scaring me.
I love this record.
I
I'm
have-
just going to go on the record. I'm on tape. I love it.
I'm on the record. I hate this album. God, man, this album sucked.
I have one question for you though, Cassidy.
Yeah.
If you like this album, what are your thoughts on One Direction?
I mean, really, it's the story of my life every time somebody asks me that question. So I don't want to get into it right now. But, I just got to say, I'm a big fan of Harry Styles' solo career. But, it's hard for me to go back to the roots, right?
Okay, let's just switch it up. Hiatus Kaiyote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we good to go on?
Yeah, I think we're good to go
let's do it.
along. So that we just wrapped up Westlife with Wild Dreams, an album that everybody should check out. Gets my glowing recommendation.
That
Next
was
up,
our most diverse scoring. We've
yeah.
ever
Next
done.
up, we go to another artist that I have some respect for here, on a similar level, really. Hiatus Kaiyote with the album Choose Your Weapon.
This is bad.
And so, Otis, you recommended it for us.
This is bad. This is bad. We're never getting it back.
I'm just saying, Westlife has been around. They've been around since 1998. So all those Taylor Swift references, probably Taylor Swift doing some homages to Westlife, really, if anything. But Otis, you recommended for us "Choose Your Weapon" by Hiatus Kaiyote. Why don't you tell us about it?
So this is one of my favorite albums of all time. I was introduced to this band by Betsy Hamill and Edward Sullivan. We covered one of their songs last year in Falunk, and I fell in love with this band right away. Not right away. It took a little bit, but it's now my favorite band. For all the listeners, I am wearing a Hiatus Kaiyote t-shirt. And so this is their second album. It came out in 2015. The group started in 2011, and their first album, Talk Tomahawk, came out in 2013.
Otis, is that written on your hand?
Yes. So yeah, this is, I think it's an hour and 6 minutes, or an hour and 9 minutes is the length of this album. And this band is from Melbourne, Australia, and the genre would be hard to say. I think future soul is a decent way to put it. I'm not really sure. But yeah, let's get into it.
I hear a lot of complaints with this album, and a lot of those come from it being labeled as neo soul and not fitting that category. I'm gonna look past that because I loved this album so much. And right from the start with the song Choose Your Weapon, and it was just this quick intro that was just weird and funky and experimental, and it was wow, this is so awesome. I thought it was weird, and I saw so much experimentation with this, and I love that. It's just something like a Danny Brown or Clipping or something like that. The beats are amazing. There's this really good transition from song to song. The vocals are phenomenal with that and this experimental jazz. It's it was everything to me. And I guess it was everything just felt like it was on an odd bar, and that was just so awesome to me. Where a song would just throw in a random drum kick every once in a while, and I was that's so sick. I really like that. There was this really good energy this whole time. I really like tracks La Puta or Prince Mini Kid with these little references to Miyazaki. Just this random little quick song about him. Every single song had some sort of different story, and so everything felt like its own little world and its own little universe. And usually, like, I hate when an album is like not put together, but this was just done so well that I was like, it all felt put together in the end. It felt like this was something that had a lot of like heart and soul into it. Like, my personal favorite transition between songs, Swamp Thing to Fingerprints, like, such a good transition from the two. And I was like, Swamp Thing was a pretty all right song, but jumping into Fingerprints, it just like bumped up that score with those it's just super laid back. The drums and keys and guitar, it just blows me away. God, I loved this album, honestly.
That's good.
I will go next. I thought this was really cool. 18 songs is a lot to be on an album, and seeing how like many of the songs that aren't interludes were like more than 5 minutes long, I was expecting to be bored. But for the most part, there are like one or two songs where I did feel like they went on a bit long, but like for the most part, I really enjoyed all the songs, and I thought that it was good that there were a bunch of interludes in between songs, because like imagining getting hit in the face with all of those like crazy like things that I don't understand what's going on in most of the songs, and having like all of those all at once would be kind of overwhelming. So it was kind of nice to have these little like it kind of like brings you back out before like pulling you back in. But it was like so many things happening and it was like, if I wanted to, I could like think about it and like try to figure out what they were doing. But also, if I didn't want to, I could still like listen to it and enjoy it without like trying to figure out what's going on. And so I thought that was really interesting, because that's a hard balance to strike. Only All the Time, Making Friends with the Studio Owl was one of my favorite songs. I loved it. I loved it so much. And yeah, it was just like everything had something about it that made it just so unique and weird. And I really liked it.
Yeah, I'm really torn on this record. So here's why. I really appreciate. So I'm going to start. My favorite thing, I think the vocal. What's the name of the vocalist?
Napalm.
Napalm. Okay.
No. Napalm.
Napalm. Okay. So yeah,
He doesn't get it.
The vocal delivery is excellent. She's like, I know how difficult jazz or jazz influenced or jazz adjacent singing can be. And to have to like keep up with just the sheer number of like tempo changes and the way that the songs kind of shift and flow together and groove, it's really hard to like syncopate with that in a way that feels good. And so it, like the vocalist and the lyrics, and then of course the grooves and the keyboards are like for me the mainstays of this record. Where I have issue with it is Bridgie mentioned some of the songs were a little longer. I felt that way, certainly, but longer in a way I felt like at times it got overcomposed, where it's like, okay, rather than playing to the surface of the song, there are a couple tracks in particular. I wanted to highlight like Molasses as one of those, I thought. And then Shaolin Monk Mother Funk is a really great. I consider it more or less the opening track, but it is a really cool opener. But at times it's just like, okay, they either repeat the same idea a little too much, or it feels like so much thought went into this without the greater context of how does it piece into the album. And so there were some pacing issues as a result. I think lyrically this is an exceptional album. I want to highlight specifically the song Borderline with My Atoms. It's one of the more personal songs, and what I liked about this album, there's a lot of like recurring. I'm a big person for motif and theme, and there's a lot of recurring theme of rebirth in here, and reinvention, and kind of like just navigating that. And so like the idea of like Borderline with My Atoms, that's, first of all, that's like a cool idea of like breaking somebody down into their atoms. But like, I'll dream tonight, barren baptized. So again, that rebirth kind of showing up. But then like I just love that second verse where it's after the coal has settled deep beneath ash resting, quiet as silk, the remedy tempers the willing, a ripe submergence of the highest order, no borders and like this repeating that idea. I think is like super, super cool. And I think it's like lyrically, like the song Jekyll is probably my favorite. It's like, I don't want to describe it as like heavier, but it's certainly like, I don't know the right word to describe it, but like again lyrically, like this idea of where we're all born to die, and then talking about that idea of baptism showing up early in the album, for example. So it's a thing where like I think a lot of the melodic stuff's really cool. I think a lot of the lyrics are like exceptional, like way above, cut above, I think, a lot of the other compositions on the tracks. I don't like any of the like sampled intermission tracks. I do not like a lot of those. Like I don't think there's a single one I'd be like, yeah, that was cool. And the only reason for it is I feel like all the other tracks do compose themselves in the way that they do, where it's just like, okay, then there's this little like minute long interlude, and I'm like, oh, but then it never, I don't know, it never made the previous song or the song afterwards improved in any way. Not that it detracted from them, but when I think of like an interlude, it's like, okay, this is a palate cleanser or some bridge or something from one idea to another, and I never quite got that. And also, speaking to Only Time All the Time making friends with the studio owl, I have one of my biggest pet peeves that negatively impacts a lot of artists and a lot of songs for me is long song titles, because it just reminds me of Fall Out Boy from like 2003 2007. And so I see that and I'm like, it's too much title. And that's a nitpick. Like, it's nothing against the song, but again, it's another case where, yeah. So yeah, I'm like really torn. I've never listened to Hiatus Kaiyote like in depth before, and so I was glad to listen to an album, and I think it has a vision, and it has like the concept is like 100% there. You feel like they poured their heart and soul into this album, but parts of it just made me feel like they either lacked confidence in some ideas or were like so obsessed with the details of it where parts of it just feel overproduced. That's like my one knock against it is that like
they did too much.
Well, they did too much, or they did too much, took a step back, and then when you do too much and you take a step back, you can then like theoretically look at a track listing and be like, well, we're going to try this out. But yeah, maybe it's just like, we have a lot of ideas, we're going to put them all into this album, and they did. And I give them credit for that, but for me personally, not every idea hit in the way that resonated with me.
You talked about Jekyll earlier on,
yeah.
And I really like that one because it sounded like one of those, like, you know, NPR has one of those like jam sessions and they have like freestyles.
Yeah.
It sounded like one of those, which I really enjoyed because it was just this like little jam time. And the only like nitpick I even had with that one is like I wanted more vocals in it. I wanted to hear more because it was like almost half the song was just empty production. Breathing Underwater was one that wasn't talked about. Because that was the love song, and that was thrown into it, and I was like, okay. And it was an interesting start because it was pretty raw and acoustic compared to literally anything else on this album except for maybe one other song. But that was honestly like, it was a pretty solid track to me because it was just like this amazing love song that worked together so well.
That also had a dope line of aorta tattoo the artery with acute artistry is awesome.
Yeah, there were so many good lines
imagery.
in that one.
Yeah.
God, I just loved that.
And I think like my favorite line in this entire album, I could call your demons inside, soak them in camel.
Yeah, I saw that. That one was so good.
Excellent.
Another song I want to point out, that was Atari. I like that one. I really liked this like fast, scattered beat, and then it would slow down to really just prepare you for whenever the chorus would pop up, and it would just throw you around for a loop. I really like that one, and I feel like that was one where you could say it was kind of overproduced, because I mean, like the ending with like the game sounds like it was it was okay. It wasn't like all too good after just like this really intense and really good song. God, it was a really good album to me. The ending, Building a Ladder, like, what a phenomenal ending. I didn't see, there was a lot of points in this album where I didn't want to say it was too long, because I honestly, throughout the hour and 9 minutes, like, there wasn't a moment where I was bored. There was, like, the most it was that there were a couple moments where, like, the creations things where I was like, okay, this is, like, just a random little instrumental sample thrown in here, and it kind of was a little annoying, especially because it was so scattered with when they would throw an instrumental in, and then you'd have to deal with, like, 20 minutes of just constant songs, especially around the end. Yeah, I mean, what a great album. It was, God, I had something I wanted to say. It was just the it being too long. It was like every track that was a decent amount of time. I think the longest being a little over 6 minutes. Like, I was invested the whole way through, because there was enough, like, switch ups in there where it wasn't too complex, but it was just enough to really keep the energy the whole time, keep you on your toes, and really just create an awesome track, and overall a really awesome album.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool how they, it was like the instruments would follow the vocals, and it was like Napalm would just sing something, and then the instruments would happen because of that, and that's just like a complete opposite of how like songs usually are, and I thought that was really fascinating.
Again, it takes a lot of talent to do that.
Yeah, it's like you can feel just like the talent
Yeah.
like seeping off of this album, but it's not like they're shoving it in your face. They do it in a good way where it's
organic.
It's not like they're bragging about it.
They're
actually making something that it like effectively works with. They're not just doing all of these crazy hard things because they want to do crazy hard things.
Like, these are, you can tell, 4 really talented people working together, and it is so, like, such a good balance between in your face and just far back enough to where it's so good. I want to say this earlier, this is the inspiration I got for a whole lot of this was the Fugees and Lauryn Hill, and just that it was like whenever, because those are like the people that you go to if you want to talk like soul and neo soul specifically. So I guess we can maybe, like, you can be a little iffy about the neo soul vibe of this, but it was just I was able to get that vibe on several of these tracks where I was like, oh my god, like this like silent funk in the background in this really well done soul vibe, and the keys specifically, the guitar so well done, the bass on some of this, like, god, it was just
and the mixing across the board is
the mixing was amazing.
Yeah.
The production, like, best, honestly, like, I can look at good production. This is some of the solidest production I've ever seen, and the only moments where I was like, man, this is kind of iffy, was on moments where it was sampled. So it wasn't even like necessarily like their fault. It wasn't their song.
They should just produce a better bit rate for the sample.
Yeah. There wasn't a song I didn't like. The thing I didn't like about this was that, like, I felt like I wanted more music out of it. Every like thing that's specifically labeled as a song or like went on the length of a normal song, amazing. It was just so well done, and I loved this.
No, oh my gosh, like, I could go on about this album for so long. Like, just on the transitions, I think of them less as interludes, and, like, well, I guess that is what I think of them, like, as lead-ins to the next song, as opposed to, like, transitions or breaks. What particularly comes into mind is Creations Part 1 into Borderline with My Atoms. Like I think a lot of these interludes kind of feel like they're they really serve as like lead-ins into the next song, like Cicada into Swamp Thing, and where's Creations Part 2. Also, I feel like this album is kind of 2 parts. It's weird. Like, when I think about this album, I think about like everything up to Swamp Thing, and then I feel like right after that it's like Molasses and Building a Ladder, but it's not. That
is the halfway point, right?
Right. Yeah. Then there's like the lung, or wait, what is there next? Yeah, there's like Fingerprints all the way through Atari and By Fire, and then the lung, and of course the interludes in between those. But yeah, like I think one of the strongest parts of this album is how it uses like more like some weird musical techniques to achieve something that's like very listenable. Like it didn't feel like I was listening to something that was like intentionally being in whatever 5/4 or 7/4. I like, but there were parts of this that were in those like odd time signatures, like By Fire, I think is in like 5/4 for the entire. Like it's so weird. Counting along with these songs is a interesting task. But I think, yeah, like they're all based on Napalm's vocals, and I think that's such a cool way to write songs and to write an album, like with everything just kind of following the vocals, but then also having it's like this kind of independent meaning of the vocals, but like, it's so cool. And the drummer, Perrin Moss, I feel like he is one of the most talented drummers I have ever listened to. Like the way, like the melodic, like how melodically he plays a non-melodic instrument blows my mind away.
I couldn't with the drums this entire thing. It was my favorite part, and I think in my notes, like throughout every song, there was always a note in the drums. They were so well done. God, only Iffy track would have to be Molasses, and I don't know why, but it was just like there was something about it where it was.
I think it's like the most popular track on the album.
It is. I was interested in that because I think it was 21 million listens, but like. Yeah. I felt like every other track was just a bit better than that one, and I feel like that one could have had a bit more oomph to it. Yeah. God, I just have to say it again: Swamp Thing to Fingerprints, and if it is like in that two parts, which makes sense, that being the transition, like from this really intense, experimental, weird track, Swamp Thing, with these like intense hums and like jumping into Fingerprints, which is honestly one of the more laid back songs throughout the album. Like if that's done on purpose, it's done amazingly. And just I'm a sucker for transitions. It's one of my favorite parts of any album or music specifically, and the fact that there were so many on this like just made me so happy to see that, because I don't see it that often unless it's like usually in older things where it was like you had to listen to the album, not the specific songs, and people did that. But seeing that here was just so nice. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just gonna say that one of my favorite songs is By Fire. It's like so fun to listen to. This album is just like full of fun things to listen to and fun, weird lyrics and metaphors that are just like everything I want from an album. But yeah, we can like go into final thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I really like. I think this album's at its strongest lyrically, and with especially those vocal melodies and this like the way the band like locksteps into a groove and everybody is on board for it. And again, this is like clearly a project of passion. There's clearly a drive here. There's a concept for it. It's interesting that you're talking about the 2-part thing, because that kind of makes sense with how dense parts of this album can be. But like just kind of thinking about it, I was closer to a 6, but in this discussion, this revisiting it, I'm just like, yeah, like, but there's like, it's really hard for me to just give a like slightly above average to an album that clearly has thought and heart and soul heart and soul, no pun intended, poured into it. Because even if it doesn't like totally resonate with me, I acknowledge the drive put into it and the effort put into it is like it. These are people who believe in this album, and like I think parts of it are overproduced, but I'd rather an album be overproduced than like underproduced or lack things. So I am firmly in the 7 out of 10 camp.
I really liked this. I'm not sure if it's something that I would like listen to on my own, just like because of my taste, but I really feel like the energy that they put into it and like all of the talent that they have, and it's really impressive. And so I gave this a solid 8 out of 10.
I looked at this, and it being something that I want to listen to, and it being like as well done as it is, like this is real talent here. It was great. The soul that was mixed in there with all this like this jazz funk. It was honestly just a really solid 9 out of 10 from me. I think there was a part of me like when like during listening to it where I was like I might give this a 10 out of 10, but I think it was just there was just a couple weak points like with the song Molasses and just the kind of the interludes that are supposed to be lead-ins to other songs. I feel like those just could have been done by the group itself, and they would have worked so much better as a lead-in, because then they know what they need to do to lead into it and not have to follow along with some experiment or some sample that they just took. Yeah, solid 9 out of 10 for me.
Nice. Yeah, oh my god, I love this album so much, and I think like the way it opens and closes it also just works so well. I was originally not a fan of Choose Your Weapon as a track. It's so weird, but I've learned to love it. And like each song has it's like its own little universe, and I love that so much. There's so much to listen to, and every time I listen to this album, I notice different things. It's like from somebody who like I love to play music. This and this is the type of music that I like to play. It's just so fun to hear people do it like so well and so much talent. It's like it's so inspirational.
It's a musician's album for sure. Like yeah.
And but I also think in some ways like you can appreciate it as a non-musician, so they're not just like so up in your face about it. But I have to give this one like a 9.5, if not a full out 10, because it is just so well done. And I also have emotional connections to a lot of these songs, so that definitely brings it up. You know, I cannot see Molasses as one of the weakest tracks because I spent so long learning that, so many hours listening to it, like, and it
was a really good track. It just felt like everything else was so much better.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I love Molasses, and like that is one of my weirdest cry songs, Molasses. It's not a good cry song, but it is a good cry song if you're me. Anyways, this is a 9.5, if not a full out 10. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's everyone, yeah? Okay, thank you, Otis. We're now moving on to our final album of the day, and this is one that Veda recommended. This is A Safety Meeting by Manwolves. So, Veda, why don't you talk to us?
Yeah, A Safety Meeting. So, Manwolves is a 5-piece instrumental band with this genre that really likes to incorporate elements from a lot of rock, jazz, and hip-hop, which 3 of my like top things. I love those. I mean, like, the members include people like Jamie McNear on vocals, Henry Wolf on bass, Julian Freeman on drums, Ari Garfin on keys, and I'm amazed to say this, Eli Cohen was on guitar, I think. Yeah.
Shout out to Eli.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
It's the director of our school.
So, yeah, these... I don't know if you guys know, but yeah. So, these guys, they were 5 lifelong friends. They all discovered they played instruments, and they were like, okay, let's do some work together. So, A Safety Meeting was released, and that was their freshman release in 2018. Personally, out of the 2 that they've released, like, my personal favorite out of the 2. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty interested to hear what you guys have to say.
I will go first. I was so interested and engaged by this album. I think that where it may have had shortfallings, they were immediately picked up by the fact that every track had a trumpet in it. Like, I was not expecting that, and those trumpet lines were like, yes, I want more. Like, that was like the funnest part of this album to me, and the way that like the trumpet and like the choruses of like a lot of the later songs, the trumpet like parallels not parallels, but like, I don't know, it dances with the vocals, and it's so fascinating and like just fun to listen to, and there's such like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I was like really drawn in by Runnin', like with the birds sampled in the beginning. I was like, this is cool. And then there's like some keys, and there's like a trumpet, and I'm like, yes, this is, I am on board with this. Yeah, there was a lot of like talent in this album, and it was just like fun to listen to.
Yeah, I went into this and I was like, okay, here we go. It's another Veda album.
Hey.
I kind of was, I was like, okay, it's gonna be fine, but it's not gonna be something that I like. And
I know I like hip hop, but I wanted to throw something else in there just for Bridger.
yeah, and so I went into it not all that excited, but like I actually really liked it. The horns was very unexpected, but I thought it was really cool how they incorporated so many elements from different genres, and like it sounds like they could have made it a like, I don't know, like an indie rock album, and they could have like had singing lyrics over the top of that, and it still would have worked. And I think that's really interesting. Like they just kind of like made instrumentals for different genres and then rapped over it, and it worked. It was impressive.
Yeah, I kind of like going into this album, I was first, so my reaction initially going into Running, I heard birds, and I'm like, cool, it's doing atmospheric stuff. And I purposely didn't look at how long the album was, so I'm like, oh, this is gonna be like a concept thing, or it's gonna like this bring me into a vibe. And then I started to hear instrumentation that, for lack of a better word, reminded me of ska music. And I believe everybody has a wall of sound, which is the music that is impenetrable to you. Ska is one of them for me. And so I heard ska, I'm like, oh no, because I'm like, Manwolves could be a ska band. It sounds like a ska band name. A Safety Meeting, I'm like, this could be like Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, or like Captain Squeegee and the Soap Suds from like Cave Creek or something like that. And as somebody who lived through that wave of ska, I was like dreading it. And the vocals came in, and I'm like, oh, okay, no, this is something I like. So yeah, I'm gonna right off the bat say the horns are my least favorite part of this album, because they were the most ska-like. I don't want to say like this is like Manwolves. This is not begrudging of you. I just don't like ska, and when I hear a horn section in a rock adjacent group, I immediately default to like Goldfinger and ska music. That being said, I was like, the way Running starts, and I have the lyrics pulled up in front of me. The starting off the chorus is really cool. I'm like, oh, this is a cool vibe. This vibe's hard. And then like those hip hop influences especially came in the flow and delivery of the verse. And it starts the storytelling part of it. And something like this idea, from what I got it from at least, was like kind of taking the stuff, like taking things kind of one day at a time and kind of like living in the now, and part of this stuff in there. But like, I don't know how to describe it other than like it was the weirdest fusion of like hip hop and jazz. I'm not going to say ska again, but kind of ska. But it has like, they're composed like rock songs, and oh my god, the drum, like speaking of drums from Hiatus Kaiyote, like the drums in this album are like, there's some cool stuff. Fisherman's Friend is probably the most fun song on the record, I think. It bounces in a way that I really appreciated, and was this kind of like catchy. I was like, you know how long I'm working? All day. You know how long I've been here? All day. Cold up here in the winter? No way. And it's like the apathetic responses to these like complaints, basically. I liked that a lot. It was cute. I think the song Reaper, I'm listening to it on Genius here. It's the only one that has like views apparently. So I don't know if it was a single or not, but like this idea of, I just met the Reaper, told me I'm all right. I just met the Reaper. Where's the lyric in there? There's a lyric in the song. Neighbor like Totoro. Like the fact that there's like a Miyazaki reference in the song.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of
batch
Miyazaki.
of albums.
Yeah, quite a bit.
And there's a lot of inspiration from like Miyazaki, especially in some album art from later releases. But
yeah, for sure. But like I think like for me the front half of the album was probably the best, ending with Shkleepy. Shkleepy. And the only reason for that is I would say that the charm wore a little thin after the first, like when I realized the second half of the album, even though it's only 32 minutes long, when I realized the second half of the album was in a lot of ways going to sound like the first half of the album. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. It was unexpected, especially on Runnin', and you get into this, I'm like, this is cool. I can vibe to this. And then I don't want to call it a gimmick, but the sound started to just seem samey, which if this had continued another 30 minutes, I would have been like so against this album, because I'm like, it doesn't do anything new. But I think it does enough and ends solidly enough, if not like the strongest, like especially the way it starts. I think it overall for me like is cool, and it like vibes in a way that was different. I'm going to go back to the vocal delivery as well. I think the vocal delivery was cool. I got a little tired again after about track 4, where the vocal delivery was again pretty samey. I don't know how else to describe it other than the way each phrase ended, like tonally, was the same in most of the songs from song to song. And so I mean, like other than that though, like I actually quite liked the inventiveness, I guess, of the sound. Held my attention for the duration of the album.
Something that I forgot to mention was the drums. I was really impressed by, like, I didn't even really notice that, like, how good the drums were until I, like, focused in on them. But I was really surprised that it's, like, an acoustic drum kit, but it's playing, like, these complicated and, like...
Yeah, it sounds like programmed drums.
It does. I was like, if it would have worked if it was like electronic drums, like it would have. I don't want to say it would have worked, but because I really like the drums in it, but it could have like been there, and it would have still like to an extent been successful.
So, my turn. This album, God, I love it so much. And instantly from the start on a track like Runnin', which is honestly just one of the tops for me, is you get this really amazing feeling, because I find that every single part of the production and every instrument, they play with each other so well. And like they kind of, you get this like, although there's this issue where like a lot of the songs like can sort of sound the same, you get this thing because each one kind of has this different feeling, because they all like mess with each other in a different way. And so on some tracks you'll get really like power from the keys and the drums. I think it was on a track like I think it was Fear and Loathing, but I don't quote me on that. There was just so much like amazingness put into this. The vocals, I honestly think that like Jamie's voice here, just it was built for this kind of music and this kind of like well put production. It felt like this really good clash, because you could get a lot of sound from like a garage band, and it clashes with that big band. And I mean, like, it was just so well done. Reaper, like, such a good track. I love the line, don't get too much sleep because death is just her sister. Like, there was so much, and I think a lot of the hip-hop parts on this really came into the lyrics and the delivery on that part, because hip-hop has this way of like storytelling and a lot of poetry and just like a way of delivering a line, and it's brought into this and clashed with rock, and it's something that I love, and I wish I saw more. Fisherman's Friend like might be my top track off of the album. Such an amazing build, like such funny little lines, like clean up quick, I got me a Minute Maid. Like, just it's so like fun. Nobody talks about it. Georgia Peach, God, it's such a cute little song. It's so like, it's warm, it's slow, it's meant to be enjoyed, and it's like this little love song. I can't remember, like, it was like the end of verse 1, because it starts with the verse, and it's like and that's okay, and we're cool, and this all repeats twice, and then it's like the you love my smile, well I think you're cute, and it's like you listen to that and you're like, okay, that's kind of cute, like I enjoy that. Like, there's nice keys, there's a nice slow down, there's a nice solid beat on it. Honestly, I can agree that the second half kind of it falls off a little, because almost every song, I don't want to say almost every song because some break it, like Georgia Peach, but they have this it's this algorithm, not an algorithm, just like, it's just something where each song will have this really amazing bumping chorus that like drags you in and it makes you feel good, then goes into usually 2 verses, and one is like, and they're both really soft and like enjoyable, back into the chorus, down to another verse, and then chorus, and it's this system that just works really well. And obviously, like, it can get a bit annoying, especially after like hearing it, I don't know, 8 times in a row, but like it's well done, and it has this charm to it, especially in the first 4 tracks, that just, it drags you in. It like, it feels different, it feels like something you can enjoy. Yeah, I really love this album, and even on a weaker track such as Free Squares or Weather is Warm, like, those are still just meant to be enjoyed, and they are enjoyed, and I don't know, I love this album.
Yeah. Final thoughts?
Yeah.
It's tightly composed, like what you just said there, Vado, with like, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, perhaps runs its course, but it's 32 minutes long, right? Like, it's I don't want to say pared back, but it's certainly like focused and tight in what it does. I'm glad you highlighted Georgia Peach, because I looked at the lyrics, I'm like, oh yeah, I did like that song quite a bit. It's talking about like raining in Chicago and you know, wishing for that warmer weather, and like that there was a sweetness to it, right? Like, and so yeah, I think it does what it sets out to do quite well. I think if this were any longer, like I said, it would wear out its welcome much quicker. But again, it's focused, and the pop composition that you're kind of talking about, that structure of like verse, chorus, you know, chorus, or a little bit of pre-chorus stuff in there sometimes, lends itself well to making this move. So for me, it's like a 7, closer to maybe like a high 6, but like I put it 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree with like pretty much everything that Casady just said. Georgia Peach, another thing that I wanted to bring up about that song that I forgot to, is how the lyrics would like almost compare 2 things. Like, they were talking about Georgia and then bring up Chicago, and then they were talking about like gold and silver and like peach and willow, and I thought that was really interesting.
See you again tomorrow, and then feeling me now, like it.
Yeah, and yeah, so I enjoyed this album a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I don't want to repeat everything Casady just said, so I'm going to keep mine short. I give this a solid 7.
I enjoyed this. I think like the strongest part of it for me was just how much it took influence from lots of different things that I don't really hear, like in one specific, in like this specific way. It was not what I expected at all. I was like thrown off by the trumpet. It was fun and like new to me. And so that was very enjoyable. And I think like another strong point was just, the vocal delivery. Like some of the lines were like, there was in Fisherman's Friend, there was like the repetition of bet, like bet, bet, bet. I don't remember how it went rhythmically, but I remember thinking it was really cool. So I think that was like another strong point. And yeah, I don't remember the later half of the album quite as much, which probably is like can be taken to mean that it wasn't as strong. And so yeah, but there was also like cool, like the piano was in stereo sometimes, which was fun.
Yeah.
And like lots of like fun
The keyboard work across the board was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And like on the last song there was like the aux percussion in stereo. So I think this is a solid like 8 out of 10 for what it does. I didn't really feel like there were any like specific things that I was really bothered by, but there were not as many specific things that I would need to be really hyped up about to bring it up to a better score.
So I like to look at albums in two ways, and one would be like my own personal score and how I enjoyed it, and another is just like respecting like how well did they do to do this. I love this album, and I think it works well in both senses. And I think that even with like the two tracks that are probably the least memorable, Free Squares and Weather is Warm, like they're just okay. They work pretty well. Like the keys are just amazing. Fear and Loathing, for being the final track, like it would have worked if, like, let's say that replaced like maybe Georgia Peach, and then that would have been the first 5 really strong tracks, because that one was like up there with Reaper and Running. Like it was just really well done. And they sounded like pretty similar with just how good they were. If I'm looking at it from my own personal score, I mean, I loved it, and I loved the clash of genre. And like it would be a 10 out of 10 from me. But like then I look at it from like a production point, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look at this like freshman album from like this garage band of just these 5 guys that got together and wanted to make some music. And the fact that they made something this impressive is really cool. And so just like my personal score would honestly be like a solid 8 out of 10, maybe going up to a 9. I just thought it was really well done. I thought what it wanted to do, it did. And even with that kind of weaker latter half, like it can get overshadowed, because you can really just enjoy those first 4 or 5 songs really well.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. Pretty good on time on this episode. So we're going to go into our assignments for next week. So our new releases, chosen one at random and the other one after our wheel failed, and we had to just pick one based solely on which one had the weirdest name. So we're going to start with a total random one, which is Echo by Of Mice and Men. Yeah,
I'm not excited. I'm just like, I've heard that name before.
Yes, same. Yeah, so when Echo showed, I'm like, oh, that Of Mice and Men. And I was like, Of Monsters and Men, the metal band? No, okay, the other one. Ones who do little talks. Okay.
Speaking of metal bands.
Speaking of metal bands, yeah. Okay. Now, next one is No Church in a While by Lecrae, Lecrae, and 1K Phew, Phew.
Whoa.
I am looking at the album art on Amazon Music, and I don't know what to expect, but that is No Church in a While by Lecrae and 1K Phew. All right. So, it is now Bridger and my turn to recommend an album, and I'm going to push one out there. It is a studio album this time around.
Heck yeah.
And it is, bear with me here, Origin of Symmetry by Muse. Specifically, the Anniversary remix that just came out this year. It's for the 20th anniversary of the album.
You're the one that was like, okay, guys, no live version, no remixes,
So,
no deluxe versions. And the 2 albums you've picked have been remixes and live versions.
The only reason I'm recommending this one is because it is it is a case where the band went back and said we didn't like the sound and production of that album, so they had their current producer, who's been their producer since like 2002, redo the album more or less. So, anyways,
Okay, well, I'm going to follow the rules. I'm going
God.
to have us listen to the album Technicolor Dada by Strawberry Mountain. That is spelled TECHNICOLOR space DADA.
Yeah, okay, sorry, DADA. Sorry, I was about to be
Technicolor
like,
Dada?
I've watched the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, like, haha. But
Okay.
whoa, that threw me for a loop.
so I'm sorry. Technicolor Dada. What was the title of the album?
Technicolor Dada by Strawberry Mountain.
Okay. Okay, you know what? I'll be fine. You know what? We won't do the remix. Just everybody listen to the Origin of Symmetry, Muse. Don't listen to the remix version. It's fine. It's fine. I amend the remix version. Okay,
Yippee.
so Origin of Symmetry, Muse, and Strawberry Mountain by Technicolor Dada.
Strawberry Mountain,
Mountain.
is the
Artist. Okay, I'm getting conflicting things on Apple Music, so.
I'm so hyped for this No Church in a While album. Oh, God. Nervous, but like...
Yeah. Okay. So that'll be it, everyone. And before we go, final thought here. I was on Amazon looking at Amazon Music, and I wanted to mention this 1-star review from Adele's 30, and then we'll just end on here as to why we're doing this podcast. 1 star. Really, she has a fantastic voice, but this woman can sing, no doubt about that, but she presents her personal issues verbally through this album. That is not enjoyable, and therefore only 1 star. Today, in this day and age, we carry our own personal issues and want to depressurize ourselves from the chaos of today by listening to her enrapturing voice. This album does not provide such enjoyable moments. Her other albums were so much better. One last thing, either the CD was of poor quality or whatever, but the soundtrack kept fading in and out like it was not recorded properly. That's it, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay.